On the ground. Does he make it? It doesn't look like he did. Now the ball is out. When did it come out?
That was the play. Did I miss the final 4th and 1?
Yeah,
or was that the fumble?
That was the play. They cut it short on the NFL Twitter when they post the clips. They don't usually keep the radio folks in mind. They
What
just
are you doing
give it
there?
For visual.
Did you have? Was that the 4th and 1 play?
That was the 4th and 1.
I mean, play what you just played again.
I'll play it again.
On the ground. Does he make it? It doesn't look like he did. Now the ball is out. When did it come out?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. You cut me off from the first part of that.
Oh.
I just heard, does it come out? And that was it. Al Michaels, bless his heart, because he's an absolute legend as a play-by-play guy. And we've talked about this before. The funny thing is, when he called Washington Green Bay in week 2 with Herb Street, I actually thought, man, you know what? I think he might be back a little bit. Last night on both the Kyron Williams fumble at the goal line and then on the 4th and 1, my man had no clue as to what was going on. I'm going to guess right now, this is just a guess. I've done some play-by-play during my lifetime here. I don't think he can see the field very well anymore. That's my guess.
That's actually
and
a
he's
good call.
Perhaps relying on spotters, and maybe they're late getting to it, or he's not sure whether he sees what he's seeing or he's going with the spotter. I think he needs really excellent spotter help because he's not seeing the biggest plays of the game. Let me just move on from Al Michaels. Legend, one of my favorite conversations, had him on 2 different times, maybe 3 times, on pregame shows before Sunday night football games when he was doing Sunday nights. And absolute pleasure to talk to. Unbelievable storyteller, memory, the whole thing. But it ain't great at times on Thursday night with old Al. But what a football game that was last night. I mean, that was start to finish. It really felt like a late December, almost January intensity. And I think that sometimes the most thrilling games to watch, regular season or postseason, is when a big road underdog that isn't being given much of a chance, and it happens all the time in the NFL, but last night was a bit of a high-profile game. 49ers 3-1, Rams 3-1, big game in the NFC West, but the Rams were an 8.5-point favorite. If you didn't know that, they went to an 8.5-point favorite because everybody for the 49ers, including the starting quarterback, out. And they bring back Mac Jones. I mean, another one of these stop giving up on quarterbacks until maybe they're like 39 and out of the league because anything can happen. You know what? Situation, coaching, all of that stuff matters. Timing. Mac Jones has played exceptionally well in for Brock Purdy, and he was lights out last night despite being beat up and physically spent at the end of that game and hurt, ribs. He was throwing up as he was coming off the field in one particular, or he was dry heaving. I didn't see actual liquids or anything in his stomach exit his mouth, but he certainly looked like he was getting sick. This game reminded me so much of a Redskins game. Washington in November of 2017 went to Seattle. This was the 2017 team, which actually, for my money, talent-wise, was the best of that 2015, 2016, 2017 stretch. They had improved themselves defensively going into the season, but they ended up being absolutely decimated with injuries. I mean, they had no offensive line players playing in these games. By the way, one of the offensive linemen last night, one Trent Williams, did not play in this game at Seattle back in November of 2017. They had the likes of TJ Clemmings and Tyler Catalina and Ari Kwanjo on the field. They literally, Jay's told me before, they had guys the previous week introducing themselves to the team on Saturday when they got to the hotel. So they went into this game against Seattle as a big-time underdog. They were 8-point underdogs, like the 49ers were last night. And they played an unbelievable football game and then pulled it out at the end with unlikely, suspects. Brian Quick made a great catch. And then Josh Doxson had one of the biggest catches of his career. And Washington just stole one at Seattle, 17-14. And in watching this game last night, I always remember that game because it was a memorable game because no one gave us a chance in that game because of the injuries and because of the venue. Now, last night's venue is different. There are a lot of 49er fans in SoFi. But the 49ers went in there and no one gave them a shot to win the game. And Mac Jones was outstanding. Kendrick Bourne, who almost signed here, but decided to sign in San Francisco after week 1, 10 catches for 142 yards. No Juwan Jennings, no Brandon Ayuk, no George Kittle. The list goes on and on. They had Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson out there as receivers. Now, Christian McCaffrey's still on the team, and he had a big night. 8 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Also carried the ball 22 times. The 49ers, if you didn't watch this game, maybe it's because you decided not to watch it, or maybe you don't have Amazon. I don't know. But the 49ers jumped to a 14-0 lead, and they were on the verge in the third quarter of going up 24-7 with a 1st and goal at the Ram 1-yard line. And it felt like if they punch it in here, it is game over at 17-7 with a chance to go up 24-7. And they went backwards from the 1-yard line. And on 3rd and goal, Mac Jones got hit, and we thought that he was going to need to be carted off the field with a knee injury. It turned out to be not serious. They settled for a field goal, and then it was game on. And the rest of the way, I mean, the Rams took the lead, or the Rams scored 2 straight drives, missed an extra point. In the game, the 49ers kicker, Pinheiro, who has not missed yet, was outstanding. But the guy for the Rams, who's already had some huge kicks this year, blocked. Had an extra point blocked, missed another field goal. What is it with the block kicks this year? The season of block kicks. But Josh Carty missed a field goal, missed an extra point. And then we get to the dramatic portion of the game. Eddie Pinheiro from, how about 59 yards out to give the 49ers a 23-20 lead with just over 2 minutes to go. The Rams, who weren't stopped, drive it all the way down to the 49er 3-yard line. And Kyron Williams fumbles a great tackle by Collins, who not only jars the ball loose, shocking fumble. You're 1st and goal at the 3. You're now, you don't want to score too quickly, but you're going to take the touchdown to go up 27-23. And Kyron Williams fumbles. And the 49ers recover. The same player that knocked it out recovered it at the 1-yard line. And then came such an interesting part of the game. The Rams had 3 timeouts left. The 49ers with the ball from their own 1, clinging to a 3-point lead. And I don't know, man. Kyle, I was absolutely expecting Kyle to throw the football and try to go win the game right there. I understand the field position. And, it was McCaffrey for a yard, McCaffrey for no gain, and then on 3rd down, McCaffrey for no gain. But I thought they would say, we're not punting it here when giving Matt Stafford the ball at midfield, down 3. We got to go win the game on offense. Kyle, unbelievably conservative in that spot. Ran it 3 times for a total of a yard and a half, punted it. The Rams took over. They had a shot to win it. They took a shot to the end zone, but they ended up kicking a field goal to tie the game. Plenty of time. They started the drive from their own 50 with a holding penalty on the punt return. And then came overtime, and the 49ers drive it down the field, end up kicking a field goal. There was a big sack on a 2nd and 3 with about 6 minutes to go in overtime. Young and Turner. Man, the Ram defense is good, but they gave up a lot of yards. Just like the Packer defense. You're like, it's really good, but then they give up 40. And here are the 49ers depleted, moving the ball up and down the field. I mean, Mac Jones in the game threw for 342 yards. They had 447 yards of total offense against the Rams. So they kick a field goal, and here come the Rams back. And I thought for sure in watching this game at that point, both teams near exhaustion, I thought Stafford's been awesome. Nakua's been incredible. Another 10 catches for Puka Nacua last night. Adams started to get targeted in the fourth quarter, had some big catches, and I thought the Rams are going to go down and win this game, 29-26 with a walk-off touchdown. But they get down there, and they get down there with ease. I mean, there's a 38-yard throw from Stafford to Atwell. They've got weapons, man. The Rams are really good. I don't know how they didn't win this game last night. They didn't deserve to win it with the way the game started. But then comes the situation. They've got a 4th and 1 at the San Francisco 11-yard line, 3.5 to go in overtime, plenty of time. And they decide they're going to go for it. First, they tried to draw them off sides, didn't work, timeout. And then they keep the offense out there, and they ran Kyron Williams. And as we played the highlight, the 49ers stuffed it and won the game 26-23. Sean McVay took all of the blame afterwards, saying that's a terrible call. He's like not going for it, which, by the way, I think they should have. Although with Mac Jones, if you saw Mac Jones leave the field after the 49ers' first possession, he looked spent. That's when he was dry heaving, coming off the sideline. He was getting worked on the sideline. I don't know how much Sean McVay knew about the condition of Mac Jones, but I wonder if he did know if he would have considered kicking the field goal there with 3:40 to go, thinking maybe they'll have to go to another quarterback. Maybe we can get a stop on Mac Jones and get the ball back and kick another field goal. But 4th and 1, it is an analytical go-for-it situation. The issue is they took the ball out of their best players' hands. Matt Stafford on the night was 30 of 47 for 389 yards, 3 touchdowns. Puka Nacua was uncheckable. Devontae Adams had become uncheckable. Tutu Atwell was pretty much uncheckable. And they ran Kyron Williams, who had fumbled at the goal line 2 drives previously, and he got stuffed. Wow. What a great football game for the first football game in October, in month 2 of the NFL season. I don't know about you, but as a sports fan, as a football fan, I think there's nothing more thrilling than watching a big road underdog go in and play the game of their life and end up winning it. Kyle Shanahan has now beaten Sean McVay straight up 6 times as an underdog. 6 times. And the Rams clearly personnel-wise last night had the better team. They did. And they lost the game. Kudos to the 49ers, man. What an effort. What an unbelievable effort. Now they get 10 days to rest, and then they got to go to Tampa to play. But that is a huge game in the NFC West, but even in just the NFC, that's one of those games where the Rams may look back and say, man, we lost the division on the first Thursday night in October when we should have beaten a team that was super depleted, and they didn't. The Rams are in Baltimore a week from Sunday to face the Ravens. Hell of a football game, man. It's what makes the sport and sports in general so great. And it was just a great day of sports in general with the 3, win or go home baseball games. The Tigers got it done. Boy, the Cubs-Padres game, the drama in the top of the 9th. The first batter up in the top of the 9th got called out on an absolute horrible strike call. Horrible call. They homered to open up the 9th, and then it was Bogarts that got up, and he looked at a 3rd strike that was clearly ball 4. Should have been a runner on first. And, Yeah, they ended up, Keller ended up hitting back-to-back San Diego Padre batters to put runners on first and second, but they could not get another 2 runs in. The Cubs win that one. And then how about the pitching performance last night at Yankee Stadium? Schittler, try to say that 5 times real quickly. But an incredible all-time performance by Cam Schittler for the Yankees. He went 8 complete, struck out 12, no earned runs. It is the most strikeouts through 8 innings of a deciding postseason game without allowing a run in MLB history. And the Yankees move on. And tomorrow you get now divisional series play. Cubs, Brewers, Yankees, Jays. Then it's Dodgers, Phillies with Ohtani pitching. And then the Tigers face the Mariners in the last game on Saturday evening. Great day of sports yesterday. Really a phenomenal day and a great NFL game to kick off, believe it or not, Week 5. And speaking of injuries and depletions, Washington's looking a lot more injured than we thought even yesterday. Because not only did Deebo Samuel miss practice for a second straight day with a heel injury, Mikey Sanders still as well. Both of those players, however, made the trip. They are practicing in L.A. They've gone out early. They're going to practice in L.A. today. And then we'll get, an update later on this afternoon. Noah Brown did not make the trip. He's been ruled out. Terry McLaurin did not make the trip. He's been ruled out. And Sam Cosmi is out. They have not pulled him back on the main roster. He's in that 21-day period after coming off PUP. But there was a new addition to the injury report yesterday. And with that, I'm going to read this. This from my guy, Tim. Tim writes, "This Steve Suter guy is damn sharp, Kevin. He hinted at this Daron Payne injury a couple of days ago when watching the game tape from Sunday. He has no connection, no bias of the team, hardly knows the players. Genuine breakdown of each game via the Sheehan show. A must listen." Yes, Steve Suter's excellent. I mean, he's Cooley-esque with the film breakdown. And he said, he harped on, and we played it yesterday here on the radio show, harped on how bad Daron Payne was in the game. And he said, was he hurt? It just looked like he was either hurt or sick or something, because the effort was massively lacking. He absolutely eviscerated Daron Payne's performance, other than the one play he made, which was the forced fumble on Bijan. And yesterday, Daron shows up on the injury report with a knee injury and was limited in practice. Dorrance Armstrong was back. John Bates was a full go, and Jaden Daniels was full again. Jaden Daniels, of course, at this point, we feel pretty confident will start Sunday against the Chargers. But the possibility exists now that they may go into this game Sunday without Terry, for sure, without Noah Brown, for sure. And what if they go into this game without Deebo Samuel with the heel injury? I mean, we'll know more later today. Hopefully he practices. And I don't think he would get ruled out today if he doesn't practice. But what if it's Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane? What if it is without Deebo Samuel offensively? Well, I still like Washington. I still like them to win the game. I have a feeling our guy is going to be back, and he is going to do whatever is required to get this offense to score whatever the number is to win the game Sunday. I still like Washington. When you're depleted at wide receiver, it's not, a good thing, but it's better than being depleted at quarterback or depleted across your offensive line. It is. Because when you have a quarterback that can create and extend, even if you don't have guys that win all the time, consistently and immediately, he'll give them time to win. You also have 2 really good running backs, 3 actually, and you're getting your best blocking tight end back for this game. You're healthy across the offensive line. I still like Washington to win. And when we come back, I'll give you my keys to a win over the Chargers Sunday in LA. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980, theteam980.com. Don't forget, you can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button when you get there.
Speak a lot about complementary football. For this offense, when you all are converting on third downs, converting on fourth downs, time of possession, how does this help the entire team?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, what it's all about. I think as a team thus far, we haven't been great at raising up together. You know, defense will get a stop. We'll go 3 and out. We'll score a touchdown. They'll give a touchdown. Special teams will make a play. We won't convert. And so we just have to raise up together. And anytime that we're playing well on third down and staying on the field, it definitely helps the other 2 phases.
Cliff Kingsbury yesterday. They are out there in LA. They're going to practice out there today. Keep it tuned here all day, and we'll get information. I think right now the key piece of information will be Deebo Samuel more than anything else. Important to have Deebo on the field without Terry, without Noah Brown. They've been without Noah Brown, and last week they were without Terry, but they're going to need Deebo Samuel to win this game. Although if they don't have him, I still think there's a chance they can win this game. I've liked them since the Atlanta game ended and the Charger game in New York ended. We'll see what happens. Washington wins Sunday. Here are my keys to a win. First of all, this game has so many unknowns at this point, on Friday morning, like how the loss of certain key players will impact both teams, which on one hand makes it kind of hard to preview because you're not sure who's going to be in there and who isn't. We know that the Chargers have missing pieces along their offensive line. Just so you know, one of those offensive pieces, Rashawn Slater, one of the best left tackles in the game, he's been out the entire season. They lost Joe Alt on Sunday, and they took a battering up front. They were manhandled at the line of scrimmage, and the Giants are really good getting after the quarterback. Burns, Abdul Carter, the Dexter Lawrence, Thibodeau, they're really good. And the Chargers lost that game because they could not win the line of scrimmage on offense. They didn't lose because Jackson Dart was great or Cam Scatterbo was great. They were fine defensively in the game. They had a real difficult time with the Giant defense and blocking the Giant defense, and it was too disruptive, and it led to bad plays and turnovers, and a lot of self-infliction in that game, combined with the Giants playing well. But this game is a hard game to preview on one hand because of the loss of many players and not knowing, what these teams will look like with some of the backup players that will play. But on the other hand, in a game like this, you err on the side in terms of picking it. You err on the side of the team that has the better quarterback. And the answer is not easy here because make no mistake, this is Jaden Daniels versus Justin Herbert, but Jaden Daniels coming off 2 weeks of being out and Justin Herbert being, an elite quarterback himself who played an amazing first 3 games of the season. He will put it up for grabs. There's no doubt about that. He will do that under pressure. And sometimes he'll put it up for grabs and Keenan Allen will make a play, or Quentin Johnston will make a play, or Ladd McConkey, who has not had a great start to the season, will make a play. But to me, this is a game in which it's quarterback versus quarterback. I know that the game's won in the trenches and there are other players, but whichever quarterback makes the most plays and the fewest mistakes Sunday, that team wins. That's what you have to go to when you're not sure about what it's going to look like with their offensive line, when you're not sure what it's going to look like with your receiving core against their secondary, which has Derwin James, Tarheeb Still, some good players. I can't wait to see Jaden return to the lineup on Sunday. I am a little bit concerned about what this will look like if he's got to wear a knee brace. Cliff would not, I don't think, and he said it yesterday, and I think that the team isn't putting him out there unless Jaden can be Jaden. So I am going with the assumption that we are going to get Jaden Daniels playing like Jaden Daniels, meaning he's going to be a part of the run game, meaning he is going to take off and scramble. He's going to extend plays outside of the pocket, looking to throw, looking to run. You're going to need that Sunday to win the game. All right, the keys, other than really, to me, it's a Jaden Daniels versus Justin Herbert, the guy who makes the most plays and the fewest mistakes. his team wins. You can say that about a lot of games with quarterback, but especially on Sunday. Number one, Washington wins this game if they let Jaden cook, but they don't forget to protect him. And what do I mean by that? Not just protection in terms of max protect or making sure the offensive line does a great job or making sure, they don't make mistakes with their running back in pass pro. I'm talking about running the football on Sunday, running the football against a team that will sit back and let you run the football on occasion. Last week, Cam Scadaboo, who really has looked sensational as a rookie, 25 carries, 79 yards. Singletary, 28 yards on 7 carries. The quarterback, Jackson Dart, in the run game, 10 carries, 54 yards. The Giants rushed the ball. You want to talk about protecting a young quarterback in his first start, of course. 42 rushes, 21 pass attempts in the game. They won the game 21-18, but they rushed for 161 yards in that football game. You go back to the Denver game. J.K. Dobbins, I talked about him yesterday. In the game that Denver lost in a thriller at SoFi a couple of weeks ago, J.K. Dobbins, 11 carries, 83 yards. Their big problem in that football game is the Denver defense, which is very good. They got dominated time of possession-wise. There was a massive play difference. It was like 80-48. The Chargers ran 80 plays, and Denver only ran 48 plays in the game. Not because Denver turned it over. They did not turn the ball over at all in that game. They had a bunch of penalties, which hurt them and derailed drives, and led to them, punting 7 times in the game. But they were there, and they ran the football against the Chargers. You go back to week 2, the Chargers, in a Monday night game against the Raiders, they were better against the run, but it's because the Raiders didn't really try to run the football. They dropped Geno back all night long in a game in which they did get behind by 2 scores. I think Washington has to think about what they did against the Raiders in week 3. And that is protective of Jaden. It will still allow Jaden to be him. You got to let him be Jaden, meaning he's got to be a part of the run game. Jackson Dart was a part of the run game last week. Bo Nix was a part of the run game. You've got to threaten that defense, especially when they're sitting in that too high and saying, go ahead, run the football. You've got to be able to run the football. And with John Bates back, maybe they've got a better chance to do that. Maybe they still have a couple of offensive formations with Trent Scott as a 6th offensive lineman and eligible. They don't need it as much with Bates back, but they could still go to that. Run the football Sunday. Protect Jaden, but let Jaden be a part of it. If he's not able to be a part of the run game, if he's not able to go off schedule as a passer, he shouldn't be playing. Number 2. Washington beats the Chargers if defensively they are much better than they were last week in the trenches. And against the Chargers offensive line, which is definitely compromised with injury, this feels like an opportunity like the defense had against the Giants and the Raiders. I'm talking about in the trenches. Now, the skill position players are much different, much better than what the Giants had in week 1 with Russell Wilson at quarterback, and even what the Raiders had in week 3. Not to mention those were home games. But I think this is a game where your D-line has to play at a high level, and I think it has a chance to. Now, Duran might be, banged up. He played a poor game Sunday. Steve Suter thought he was sick or injured, that he was so out of it on so many plays, easily blocked. The effort he questioned, and maybe it was because Duran was playing hurt. And if he is out, they have to go to, their backups, including guys like Johnny Newton, to get it done. They've got to be much better up front than they were against Atlanta, and they may have the opportunity to do it. So I think Washington wins this game if up front in their defensive line, they win in the trenches. They get off double teams, allowing Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu to make easier tackles closer to the line of scrimmage. Washington's been a decent run-stopping team. Now, Omarion Hampton, the rookie out of North Carolina, had his best game last week against the Giant defense, but it wasn't a lot of carries. Just 12 carries for 128 yards, but that is over 10 yards per carry for the rookie from North Carolina drafted in the first round at number 22 overall, Omarion Hampton. He was not my favorite back in the draft, but he's looked pretty good here to start the season. They've got weapons. They've got Keenan Allen back. They've got Ladd McConkey, who has not had a great start to the season. Quentin Johnston, who couldn't catch a cold his first few years in the league, is catching everything this year. They've got weapons. They've got a quarterback, but you've got to win in the trenches. They have the chance to take advantage of a compromised Charger offensive line, and Kinlaw and Armstrong, if it's Newton rather than Payne, they've got a chance to be disruptive. If they're not disruptive, they're going to give up way too much offensively. And it's going to be a game that they would have to win in a shootout. I'm not sure that's the game you want them in. And I think Sundays there is an opportunity to win at the line of scrimmage defensively. You know, it could be Goldman. It could be Newton. It's got to be Kinlaw. And if Payne plays and he's healthy, he's got to play better than he did last week. Next, simplify it on the back end. Please simplify it. I cannot watch another game, especially given this is the best offense you faced. This is the best group of playmakers. It's the best quarterback you face. They also can run the football. They're also well coached with Harbaugh and with Greg Roman as the OC. All right. They will figure out what you don't do well and they'll attack it. Simplify it defensively. If that's bend, don't break, fine. See if the Chargers make mistakes. See if the front four can get pressure and can stop the run. And you guys can play more zone coverage, eyes on quarterback, everything in front, which leads to the next thing. You've got to tackle better than you did. And they've got guys that will break tackles. Hampton can break tackles. Tyler Conklin, their tight end, will break tackles. The kid 86, Gadsden, will break tackles. Keenan Allen, not a tackle breaker. Ladd McConkey, tough sometimes to get to the ground. You've got to tackle better defensively. And then lastly, and this is, the typical cliche, but you've got to win in the other areas of the game, like turnovers and special teams. And Washington's got a chance to win on special teams. They've been an outstanding kick coverage team. Tarheeb Still, by the way, as a punt returner, is dangerous. Still was a Maryland corner. He is a dangerous returner. He's a dangerous corner at times, bit of a risk taker. And they've got a great kicker in Cameron, Dicker the kicker. He's an outstanding kicker, 100% on the season, on field goals this year, already 8 for 8. Last year, he was 39 of 42. This guy is good, has not missed a kick, hasn't had a kick blocked. Washington's going to have to match that. Field position will be important. Turnovers will be important. But to me, it comes back to, is 5 ready to play the way he can play? If Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels Sunday, after what the Chargers went through last week with their offensive line troubles, I'm going to take Washington Sunday to win the game. I'll give you my final score prediction with a footnote at the end of the show. But I think that they can win this football game. I think it's one of those games, too, where early in the game on defense, I think we'll get a feel for, is the result going to look more like Giants-Raiders, or is the result going to look more like Packers-Falcons? And to me, it all starts up front. They have to get off double teams. They have to stop the run, which they've done a good job at. And they've got to be able to scheme up some pass rush if the front four can't get there. This is an opportunity. It wouldn't be an opportunity if the Chargers were healthy along the offensive line. But like the Giants, who were banged up in week 1 without, Andrew Thomas, like the Raiders, who had troubles along their offensive line and were missing their best guard in that game, this could be an opportunity for the defense to look better. I don't think the defense is a good defense. I think we're going to learn that over 17. But this is one of those opportunities, and maybe the only opportunity they'll have against a really good quarterback, a really good receiver group, a good running back to actually perform well, because the Chargers are right now flawed in a major way up front. And we saw that against the Giants. We're not the Giants defensively, but you got to play much better than you did against Atlanta. I like the opportunity. I'm going to take Jaden over Justin Herbert, but you got to run the football this week, Cliff. All right, not fancy running football. Let's go at them, especially if they're going to sit back in too high safety. I mean, they'll walk Derwin James down, and he has got to be accounted for, no doubt. But when they're sitting back there saying, go ahead, let's see you run the football, take the invitation and do it. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. This is a weird game to preview because I think many of you who are typically very optimistic will be pessimistic today, especially with the injuries. How does Washington beat the Giants? How do you preview this game? What are the keys to a win over the Giants? We'll take your calls next at 301-230-0980.
All right. Happy Friday, everybody. It is October 3rd. Here is a Commanders injury update. The Washington Commanders, they traveled to LA yesterday, but a few players did not make the trip. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, and Sam Cosby all did not travel with the team and are ruled out for Sunday. Some players still in question are Deebo Samuel, who did not practice with a heel injury. Mikey Sainer still, who did not practice with a knee injury yesterday. Deron Payne was limited with another knee injury, and Ali Cahill limited due to a concussion. And Percy Butler limited with a hip. Full participants are Dorrance Armstrong and Nick Bellore. They should be ready to go on Sunday. MLB Elimination Day was yesterday. The Tigers, they doubled up the Guardians by a score of 6-3. They will move on to face the Mariners. The Cubs win over the Padres by a score of 3-1. They will draw the matchup versus the Milwaukee Brewers. The Yankees beat the Red Sox 4-0. They'll take on the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALDS. And the Dodgers moved on the other day over the Reds. They'll go up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Some hockey, the Caps, they fell for the first time this preseason to the Boston Bruins by a score of 3-1. Ryan Leonard with the lone bright spot for the Caps. Charlie lingered in net last night, saving 25 of 27 shots, but man, he'd like to have that second goal back. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
From a coach in town that listens to the show that wants to remain anonymous. He writes, Kevin, they're going to load the box Sunday. They've been playing a lot of too high, a lot of nickel, a lot of dime all year, allowing teams to run, but they're going to force this one on Jaden. Mark my words. Okay. That's not what they've been doing, but let's see. If they load the box, then they're not sure with the receivers that we have that Jaden can beat us. They can beat him from the pocket. We'll see. I mean, that's always one of those things that's so interesting to watch. Last week, one of the things I didn't emphasize was just early how Washington was really loading the box to stop the run. And they didn't. They were missing tackles left and right, and they were getting beat up front, especially with, Duran, as Suter pointed out. But every week's a new week. You might be right. I mean, that's a coach's perspective, right? You're playing, a lot on tape. You're seeing a lot of too high. You're seeing a lot of an invitation to run the football, and then all of a sudden they come with 8 in the box early in the game, saying, "No, we actually believe your quarterback wearing a brace with no receivers is going to struggle if we stop the run." All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Again, that Terry's out, Noah Brown's out, Cosme's out. They didn't even make the trip. Sanderstil and Debo yesterday did not practice for a second consecutive day. So Percy Butler was already limited. You got some issues in the secondary. You certainly have issues at wide receiver. How do they win this game? Because this is one of those games, not exactly like last night, where the 49ers were given very little chance because of all the injuries, in part because the Chargers have some injuries. And, the Chargers came off a very physically demanding loss, and they got to go all the way back from east back to west. And they're playing at home, but it's not really a home environment. And there will probably be a ton of Washington fans in there. Washington's only a 2.5, 3-point dog, people. Okay. They're not an 8.5-point dog like they were last night. There's a reason for that, which is probably the number one reason. No, it's not probably. It is the number one reason I like our team, because there's going to be a need in every bookmaker's shop worldwide for Washington to cover the number on Sunday. All right. How do they do it? I said the following: let Jaden cook, but don't forget to protect him. And protecting him means running the football, especially if coach is wrong against what they've played a lot on first and second down. A lot of shell, a lot of too high, a lot of nickel, a lot of sometimes 6 DBs on the field. You've got to run the football, but you've got to have Jaden be a part of it. Okay, if he can't be Jaden Sunday, he shouldn't be playing. Number 2, they've got a shot this week to play better in the trenches against a banged-up offensive line. I'm not saying it's going to look exactly like the Raider in the Giant game, but it's got a chance to look a lot better up front than it did in the Green Bay and in the Atlanta game, and it needs to. Number 3, you've got to communicate differently on defense. Have to in the back end, because they've got receivers and they've got a quarterback, best one we've faced this year. And then lastly, it's going to be those hidden yardage and turnover issues, special teams, and you can't lose the turnover battle against this team and hope to win. 301-230-0980. Let's get to your calls. We'll start with Cyrus. Cyrus, how do they pull it off Sunday in LA against the Chargers?
Hey, Kevin, my number one thing, which I think is kind of common in the games that they've lost, is starting off not slow on offense, but very quick. And it's actually more so less about getting the offense in rhythm, and it's more so about getting the defense in a position to where they don't get tired too early after multiple 3-and-outs or short drives, and to where they're not playing back on their heels the entire game. I think that was Adam Peters' plan this whole offseason, which is he's going to supplement the offense, try to improve the run defense, but at the end of the day, rely on the offense to put up enough scores to where the defense could maybe be a little bit more creative, and there's less pressure on them to have to come up with stops over and over again to get the offense back on the field. Atlanta controlled the time of possession last week. I don't have the exact numbers right now, but it was insane, was it not?
Yeah, it ended up being basically 9 minutes, but in the first half, it was basically doubled up play count and time of possession. They went on long drives in the first half, converting some, not favorable down and distances, throughout the game on second down and third down. Yeah, no, look,
right.
Last year with Jaden in the lineup for, pretty much the entire season, Washington finished 7th in time of possession advantage. This year, through 4 games, they're 28th in the league in time of possession. So you're 100% right. Their best defense, I still think, and maybe we don't know this for sure, but it's a strong, guess at this point, strong lean at this point, that their best defense is going to be their offense again. And it can't be without Jaden on the field, in my opinion. Not that Mariota isn't a capable backup, but Jaden's got to be on the field making magic on some of those plays, 3rd and 4th down, where they end up continuing drives like they did last year.
Yes, doing that early and often, and it's the only way they're going to beat the good teams. I think the defense can beat up a little bit on bad teams, but to beat the good teams, we have to start fast on offense. I don't see it happening any other way.
Thanks, Cyrus.
But thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. Let's go to Rod in Landover. How do they pull it off Sunday, Rod, in L.A. against the Chargers?
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Man, this is going to be a hard game. We got to win in the trenches. That's how the Giants beat them. The Giants, the defensive line was just dominant. The Giants' offensive line did what they had to do. We got to win in the trenches, man. Am I confident that we're going to win in the trenches? I'm not sure. I know San Diego got some pretty big defensive tackles, man. Them guys are kind of they pretty tough up front, man. So our guys are gonna have to play hard, and I want to see us start Bill, man. Bill, if they do load the box, I think this would be a game for Bill, man. He can make 1 or 2 guys miss, and let's pick up some chunk plays, man. I think they're gonna need some chunk plays out of the running game because if I'm San Diego, I'm going to press the receivers. I'm going to put 8 in the box. You're going to have to beat me with
it's not what they've done so far this year. As I mentioned, a coach in town, high school coach in town, said that's his guess that they switch it up. And with the receivers being out, they're going to put it on Jaden and the receivers. So maybe we'll see that. But if we don't see that, they've got to take that invitation and run the football. And I'm with you. I'd love Krosky Merritt to get not 7 carries on Sunday. I'd love him to get 14 and say Rodriguez to get 9. 23 for $140. How about that? Let's take that right now with Jaden as a part of the running game. Hopefully Debo is a part of the running game. And that's how, you can keep your defense off the field, win time of possession. But I don't think, you turn down the invitation to run the football if they're giving you the opportunity to run it. I think you got to take that if that's the way the Chargers play it on Sunday. And I think they can run the football. I think they're a better offensive line right now than they were at any point earlier in the season, or maybe even at any point last year, with maybe a better running back situation, even without Eckler. So
can I say this? I want to say this, Larry. When we cross the 50-yard line, man, we got to start going for it on 4th down. We can't. I'm not that confident.
But we haven't had a lot of those this year. We haven't had a lot of those 4th and analytically go for it situations. There haven't been that many.
We need to create them because I think we're going to have to put up a little bit of points to beat San Diego.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year 20 of 23, right? So this year, in terms of 4th down attempts, just attempts, we have just 7 on the year. We're 4 of 7 on 4th down. That's more 4th downs than I even thought that we had. Thanks for the call, Rod. Appreciate it. All right, everybody on hold, I see you. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I want your, keys to a win Sunday. How do they pull it off Sunday with, what will be in many areas a depleted roster going into the game? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. from Steven in Bethesda. I know you love Jaden Daniels, but I would take Justin Herbert every day of the week and twice on Sunday if I were starting a team. This is his breakout year. He is sensational as a drop back and, as you say, an extend the play quarterback. Yeah, I wouldn't take Justin Herbert over Jaden Daniels, and I think Justin Herbert's great. I think he's an incredible talent. He's also not gotten it done in some of their bigger games. They blew that huge lead against Jacksonville in the playoffs a few years back, and he was horrendous in the postseason game against Houston last year. I think he threw 4 picks in that game and was sacked like 6 times. I want to go back and just look to see. I mean, he fell apart, and when under pressure, the ball was just going up for grabs over and over again. And by the way, he does that on occasion. You know, like on Sunday, Sainristil caught the one that Penix threw right to him. It was a terrible throw. You might get 1 or 2 of those opportunities on Sunday. The playoff game against Houston, he was 14 of 32 for 242 yards. That's a pretty good yards per completion average. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He got sacked 4 times in the game. They lost 32-12 in that game. No, I like Herbert, and he's got a lot of career left, and he's going to play in a lot of big games because he's that good, and he'll elevate his team more often than not to being a good team. You know, even this year where it started 3-1, 3-0, and people were saying, this is Herbert's year. Maybe, a breakout MVP caliber year. And then he puts up the game where he is struggling against that Giant defense. Not exactly his fault, but even against Denver, even though he was phenomenal in the clutch, he got sacked 5 times and had, a completion percentage in the 50s in that game. That was a rugged game, man. I watched that game, and in sort of preparing for today's show, I went back and watched some of the plays in that game. That was a tremendous game. The Chargers beating the Broncos in week 2. Really, really good football game. And the touchdown pass he threw to Keenan Allen to tie the game down 20-13 late in the game was just an unbelievable throw and catch by Keenan Allen. But he was under duress. That guy, Nick Benito, who I mentioned yesterday, really is becoming a superstar as a pass rusher in Denver. And he unloads a ball that is on the money, moving to his left. He's gifted. There's no doubt. But no, I'm not taking Herbert over Jaden Daniels. Just not. Of course, the irony of all of this is the Chase Young draft year. If you don't have a coach coming in that's sort of got to commit to Dwayne Haskins because the owner really likes the player, maybe they go Herbert. Maybe they go Tua. I mean, look, I wanted Chase Young the whole way. Clearly wrong. That was a busted pick. But I thought Chase Young was a transcendent talent, a Myles Garrett level talent coming out. All right, back to the phone lines. How do they pull it off Sunday? No Terry, no Noah Brown, potentially no Debo, but they will have 5 back at quarterback. How do they pull it off? Jeff in Clarksburg, go ahead.
Hey, you got to keep Mariota in there. Mariota is not a bum. He's showing he's more than capable, but Jaden is not ready.
How do you know that?
If you heard him in the press conference, did he sound confident when he kept talking about that knee brace? He did not. He's going to be a sitting duck back there. He's not going to be able to run the RPO like Mariota's going to be able to run it, and we're going to have to keep up. The offense hasn't missed a beat with Mariota, but Jaden, that RPO is not going to be there. He's going to be hesitant to run because you heard him in the press conference. He's not confident with that knee brace. He's never played with the knee brace. If he's not ready, he's not ready.
Okay, so a couple things. I do agree with you, and I've had this vision of him being in a knee brace and looking like a different quarterback and not being able to play like he's able to play. But we don't know for sure that he's going to wear the knee brace. That hasn't been determined. as of yet. And I was talking to Jay Gruden, and Jay said they're making these knee braces now in a way in which even the mobile quarterbacks, and you've seen it with some of them, including Lamar, who had to wear one a year or two ago briefly, that they can play their normal game. But I will admit, Jeff, that the idea of him in like a clunky knee brace, I just wonder what he'll look like, from a style standpoint. But if he's ready to go and he's 100%, he plays. Mariota doesn't play. They've got a better shot with Jaden playing.
He's not 100%.
Well, they wouldn't. Then they're not going to play him.
Of a get down. With a scrambler, he's not that great of a get down scrambler. So to give him an extra clunk, you know what I mean? Trying to get down, like if he's not ready, he's not ready. Like this is the franchise. Give him another week.
Okay, well, they gave him another week, and I think it was last week. I think that was the give him another week. Because listening to him, he was ready to go 2 weeks ago. Doctor medically called him out on Friday when they thought maybe it could be close. But they took care of him, and they protected him last week by not allowing him to play. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Let's go to Ian. Ian, how do they pull it off Sunday?
I think Jaden Daniels has to be Superman. This is a one-man team, and he has to elevate it to a different level. Even if there weren't the injuries, he has to be a Superman. But with the injuries, he has to be a transcendent player. We talked about Super Bowl MVPs, all pros. He has to show that now. It's just that simple. Steve Suter's analysis was alarming at so many different levels. So he's got to be the guy to change the trajectory.
I agree with you, and my expectation is that he will. I will say I'm a little bit hesitant about this week with the knee brace thing. If he can't be Jaden Daniels, I don't think they would put him out there if he can't be. If he can be, this is one of those games. You are correct. This is one of those games like last year against Cincinnati, early in the year, like late in the year against Atlanta, like down, against Philadelphia, where he's going to have to strap it to his back and carry them to a, 28-27, 34-28 kind of a win. I agree with that. I mean, that's why I said this is really, make no mistake, if they're going to win this game, this has got to be about Jaden versus Justin, and Jaden's got to make the more amount of plays and the fewest number of mistakes. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. Let's go to Rylan. Rylan, how do they pull it off Sunday?
Hey, Kev. How they pull it off is by our savior, number 5. Pretty plain and simple. I think he's going to make Luke McCaffrey look like his brother in his prime, and he's going to go for 2 tutties. And without Debo, he's going to have to. I think, of course, a turnover would help, but you definitely – referencing that knee brace just gives you the shimmies of RG3, and hopefully he's not anywhere near that kind of level of.
I think the technology is better now too.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think they're going to put him out there after 2 weeks of rest if he's not ready to go. And I think people that are referencing Mariota clearly haven't listened to Steve's breakdown, because how can you even say you need to go back to him after last week's film breakdown? So I think,
he also, Mariota, he admitted, made a lot of plays too that kept them in the game. Mariota made a number of plays, but he thought some of the mistakes and some of the misses were egregious, no doubt.
Yes. We can't have any of those on Sunday to get a win and come back over 500 and see what we got come the next year. So let's go find a win on Sunday, and let's have one here.
Yeah, thanks for that. Joe Arrow texted me and said, "Where's Jamison Crowder? He's not anywhere, and he's not on this roster. And they just signed another receiver this week. They added the veteran Robbie Chosen to the practice squad. They brought up Tay Martin. They made him active last week. Ja'Cory Brooks hasn't had that opportunity yet. So he's, if Jamison Crowder, were someone they wanted to add, he's addable, unless he just doesn't want to play anymore. Because they've added multiple receivers to the practice squad here in recent weeks. Let's go to Anthony in DC. Anthony, how do they pull it off Sunday?
So they pull it off by running just enough to move the chains and keep our defense off the field. That's basically what it's going to come down to. Whether they stack the box or not, if they can't run the ball, it's going to be a long day. Let me ask you a question. Are you one of those people who believes that Coach Joe's offense from the 80s and early 90s wouldn't work today?
No, I'm not a believer in that. I think that the one thing that would be missing is a lot of the motions that are a part of today's game, but I think Joe would have adapted. And I think Joe would have adapted to, a lot of the formational stuff and a lot of the motion stuff. But at the end of the day, they did what they did at a super high level. And Joe, let's remember, if your vision of what you're describing is we're going to play slobber knocker, run the football, be physical, Joe did whatever it took to move the football, including airing it out in some of those years. Maybe in a different way that it would have been done today. But no, I think Joe Gibbs would have been successful in any era. He was an innovator. He was a creator.
I think there's one team in today's NFL that he would have a field day with if he was the head coach. And you probably know who it is.
What do you mean? Coaching against or coaching with?
No, coaching with.
I don't know. Tell me.
The answer is obvious, Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he'd fit into that culture. But again, remember,
Coach Joe with Derrick
remember
Henry?
they aired it out in 83. They were the best passing offense in 91, with the three receivers, with the posse. I mean, nobody threw more bombs in 91 than Mark Rippon did. And then they'd come back and run it down your throat with the lead in the second half. But they got the lead by throwing the football.
Right, but what I'm saying is the play action. Could you imagine Coach Joe Gibbs with Derrick Henry, a.k.a. John Riggins?
Yeah.
The play action would kill the
probably like Scattaboo in his backfield as well. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it. Let's go to Billy in Chantilly. How do they pull it off Sunday?
Kevin, were the Niners in the smell test last night?
They were not. I thought about it, but the line went up significantly. There was a lot of sharp money on the Rams when all the injuries started to pile up. But I liked him at the beginning of the week. I
heard an 81% handle on the Rams.
Yeah, but there was also a lot of sharp money on the Rams as well. So that's not my formula.
Even at 81%? Yeah, okay. I've had a little different formula, I guess.
The handle, yes. But go ahead.
Yeah, the handle. Yeah, I didn't get to weigh in on the defense. If I could, just briefly, I would say everything that's good about the defense, I would say is Quinn and Josh related, ownership related, and everything that's bad is Schneider related. That would be my observation, just generally speaking. Look, the best thing that can happen to us as an organization is they slow down the Jaden run, keep him out of trouble. The guy has got the best arm probably in the history of the league. He's a tremendous pocket passer. He reads defenses better than anybody in the league. He's got a lightning bolt for an arm. So that's the formula. That's the formula for the next decade. And we'll probably win 6 or 7 Super Bowls if you keep him in the pocket, keep the knee braces off him, and keep him getting injured.
I mean, he does it all, by the way, speaking Mandarin Chinese, which is amazing as well, and playing an incredible violin. The guy he's the greatest in the history of the game. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Best I've ever seen.
All right. Great analysis. Thanks. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, how do they pull it off Sunday?
Big guy, hail to the W.
Hail to the W.
How you doing, man?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good.
So Jaden's been out 2 games after catching a beat down against the Packers. We got injuries all across the board. You can't make this a Jaden versus Justin Herbert, man. This has to be a team effort. All right, you got to run the ball and stop the run. Said it last week. Run the ball, stop the run. Mario Hampton had over 124 yards last week against the Giants. So they're going to feed him because Najee Harris is hurt. You know, their offensive line is hurt, so they definitely want to feed him. But we got to run the ball and stop the run. We got to slow the game down to speed the game up. And Cliff Kingsbury,
deserves to be
mean?
etched into a stone somewhere.
We need to slow the game down and speed the game up, man.
Yeah.
You know, and we got to set the tone on offense. You know, we can't be on the road and you try to run a trick play on the first play of the game. To get blown up in your face.
I'd rather not try to be
mean?
super fancy with a jet sweep
Right.
for -3 on the first play of the game.
Right. We just got to be fundamentally sound, man. You know what I mean? Run the ball, stop the run. Slow the game down and speed the game up, and we should come home with a victory, man.
It is your simplicity that makes you so complex. I've always said that about you and my buddy Tom Lavero. Slow the game down so you can speed the game up. But by the way, you have to run the football if their invitation with their defense is go ahead and run the football. And they've shown that a lot on first and second down this year. You cannot get fancy. You can't come out and be pass happy against, nickel, dime, too high, run the football. It's something they can do this year. It is definitely something with the O-line and with the backs that they can have success doing. And yes, I want Jaden to be a part of that run game. Okay, I want zone read to be a part of it. I do. I don't want him in quarterback counter. I don't want him in quarterback power. We don't need to see that on Sunday, especially if he's wearing a knee brace. Please, Cliff, keep away from the designed runs. Option runs, scrambles, no problem. All right, thanks, Paulie. Appreciate it.
Exactly. Yes,
This time of year is the best time of the year if you've been thinking about replacing older windows. If you've got older windows that are stuck, they're hard to open, they're hard to close and keep closed, they're cracked. The return of winter, which is right around the corner, chillier air, as we've had the last couple of days, it's going to get into your home. Your heating bills are going to be too high. You can eliminate those annoying drafts once and for all with top quality replacement windows from Window Nation. And right now is a good time to do it. First of all, you'll get them in before winter arrives. Secondly, the deal right now is 2 free windows with every 2 purchased. You are guaranteed 1-day installation with this offer, and you have the option, if you choose to finance the purchase, to not pay anything until the year 2027. No down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest charged for 2 full years. That's a big savings with the holidays coming up. I've mentioned many times Window Nation is totally trustworthy. They've got over 45,000 5-star reviews, a 96% customer satisfaction rating. They've installed over 3 million windows, and they offer a lifetime warranty. There's no risk. It starts with an in-home free estimate. They'll leave you with the quote, you can decide what to do. Call them at 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com to schedule that fast, free in-home estimate. Mention my name. They'll come out and give you that estimate in a day or less. They'll take really good care of you. windownation.com for buy 2, get 2 free without paying a dime for 2 years.
The biggest plays and clutch moments.
Start off across the pond, Kev. We head across the Atlantic, where the Minnesota Vikings will take on the Cleveland Browns. Dylan Gabriel making his first start as an NFL quarterback against the Vikings defense that ranks number 3 in passing yards allowed. Browns are going to have to use that rushing attack if they want to have a shot. Kickoff, 9:30 a.m. Head referee is Scott Novak. The line, Vikings are favored by 3.5 points. The over-under is 36. Kevin, what time do you think most of America shuts this game off?
Well, I actually think it's a really intriguing matchup. Like last week's, doubling game, Vikings and Steelers, which turned out to be a pretty good game. First of all, I can't believe we're here at week 5 already.
I know.
We're in October, week 5. This is actually a great month of football because we start to learn more about these teams, both on Saturdays and Sundays. And these games start to take on, a little bit more meaning. I mean, when you only have 17, they are all meaningful. But, the Browns defense is right now at a historic rate as a run defense in particular. They are dominating teams up front. They're allowing 2.7 yards per carry. That's it. And the offensive line for the Vikings is in tatters. I mean, they lost multiple players last week, including Brian O'Neill, their right tackle, their veteran right tackle. This could be an absolute bloodbath up front for the Vikings, who, by the way, have have Carson Wentz at quarterback. He actually did some good things last week, but also did those things that he often does, which is he doesn't see it all the time, and he just takes a massive number of hits and sacks, which is what we saw here, at times. I actually really give the Browns a shot. Dylan Gabriel's going to start. They benched Joe Flacco. Flacco was not good, but their offensive line has been terrible. And what Kevin Stefanski did here is he's like, against a Brian Flores defense, I need mobility at the quarterback position. Flacco, by the way, is still the backup with Shadur as the third stringer. We didn't talk about the Shadur miming thing from the other day. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Of course I know what you're talking about. I wanted to send it to you so we could play it, but I don't think it would translate very
there's
well
nothing
to
play.
radio.
Shadur Sanders was interviewed after the decision was made to go to Dylan Gabriel, but to keep him as a third-string quarterback, and he mimed his answer. He mouthed it without actually any audio. Now, this was in response, a lot of people believe, to Rex Ryan really going after him on Greenberg's Get Up in the Morning show on ESPN. And that, but here's the thing. Why is a third string quarterback being interviewed? You have to, as a PR outfit in Cleveland, you have to not allow Shadur Sanders to do media. He's the third string quarterback. Josh Johnson's not doing media. I understand Shadur Sanders is different, but you're in the NFL now. This is the big boy league, and it doesn't matter where you came from or who your father is. Third string quarterbacks don't get media availability. Teams don't let their third string quarterbacks talk, period. And he didn't talk technically. This is an interesting matchup, though. I'm telling you, this Browns defense, if you haven't watched it yet, if you haven't watched what Myles Garrett is doing or what rookie Mason Graham is doing against an absolutely depleted offensive line, injury ravaged for the Vikings, this is going to be interesting. Like Jordan Mason, by the way, is a good back. You cannot run the football against Cleveland. Can't. Impossible. I actually think the Browns win this game on Sunday. I think they figure out a way to win it. I don't know what to expect from Dylan Gabriel. I loved Dylan Gabriel as a college quarterback with one exception. He's like 5'8", 5'9". He is short, really short. But God, does he see it and throw with anticipation, or he did it at the college level for sure. All right, what's next?
All right, so this next game, we head to Baltimore for the battle between two 1-3 teams who made the playoffs last year. Houston comes into this one off a 26 zippy win over the Titans. The Ravens entered this game off 37-20 loss to the Chiefs, and boy, are these Ravens banged up. Doesn't sound like we're going to have Lamar out there. They're also missing Ronnie Stanley, and all of their starting corners are on the injury report.
Yeah.
Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Head referee Lan Clark. The line currently Texans -2, over under is 40.5. Can the Ravens tread water here, or is there a big opportunity for CJ Stroud to give the Texans some extra momentum going forward, Kev?
Big opportunity for the Texans this week. You didn't even mention Kyle Hamilton,
True.
Marlon Humphrey. You said that they're secondary to their corners, but I mean, this Ravens team is, boy, I feel like we say this every year, so I don't think it's a new thing, but it certainly seems like more teams aren't just losing one player. They're losing a lot of players. The 49ers last night, they won. Washington's, down a lot of players. Baltimore has been really stung by the injury bug. No Lamar means, can Derrick Henry, against a pretty stout defense for Houston, can he carry them? I don't know, man. I like the Texans. I don't think the Texans are a bad football team. Their offensive line isn't very good, but their first 3 games that they lost were all winnable games. All of them were winnable. They lost all of them down the stretch with chances to win. It was against the Rams in the opener, the Monday night game against the Bucks when Baker Mayfield drove them down the field and won basically at in the final 30 seconds. And then hold on, who did they play in week 3? They had a chance to win that game too. The Jags, they had a chance to win that game too. I don't think Houston in their season is anywhere near over, and this is a huge opportunity for him. It would not surprise me at all if they go into Baltimore and win because of all of the injuries.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same way. All right, so this is the first big little one that I think we're all going to forget about, the 1 p.m. matchup between the Dolphins and the Panthers. Tua and the Dolphins look like they were able to sustain something against the Jets defense in a smelly Monday Night Football doubleheader. Carolina comes into this one off a bad loss to the Patriots, where they haven't really looked competitive the past couple weeks. Last time it was really that when they made that surge against Arizona. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Clay Martin. Live line Dolphins -1, over under 44.5. Can this be a get-right game for Carolina, or do you think the Dolphins handle business, head back to the beach?
A get-right game is as if they're going to right their season.
Yeah, right.
I like Carolina in this game. I definitely like Carolina in this game. Tyreek Hill is obviously done for the season, so now it's, Tua and Jalen Waddle, right? And, their tight ends and their backs. What's interesting about Carolina, okay, is they got absolutely run last week by the Patriots. But a little bit closer of a look, because I did take a look at this game, and I wanted to take a look at it because of our NFL buy and sell yesterday, because I wanted to sell the Patriots. I wanted to look for a reason to sell the Patriots. This was a game that basically, came down to the Patriots just dominating, in the red zone. They were 4 for 4. They got into it, and Drake May made play after play, and they did a good job in this game. I don't think Carolina's as bad as everybody thinks they are. Now, is Chuba Hubbard playing?
I believe his status is very much in doubt, but I'm not. Listen, we've had miracles happen.
They're the team that blew out Atlanta the week before. They're the team that nearly pulled off a comeback against Arizona on the road. I don't know what to think of Carolina. I like them because I don't think anybody will like them Sunday. And the Dolphins are coming off a Monday night game. This is a terrible game to talk about. Move on to the next one.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard officially out, according to Rappaport. Yeah, according to Rapp.
Well, that's a big loss. Hubbard's a good back.
He is. All right. We head to Lucas Oil Stadium, where Danny Dimes and his 3-1 Colts host Geno Smith and the Raiders. The Colts rank 3 in total offense, and the Raiders 22 in points allowed. Colts looked really solid against the Rams last week, who could end up becoming a playoff team. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee is Alex Kemp. Colts are favored by 6.5 or 7, depending on where you get it. Over under 47.5. Colts win, Raiders cover. Or is the Colts offense too much for Pete Carroll, Kev?
Raiders definitely have a chance to cover. Man, the Colts kind of gave one away. When you think about it, the Rams were kind of lucky to win the game last week, and then They lost last night. As good as the Rams are, they're very close to being a 2-3 football team instead of 3-2. The Colts, if you don't know, they really, really hurt themselves in this game, including with one of those, touchdowns that ended up not being a touchdown because Adonai Mitchell basically fumbled the ball going across the goal line and it went out of the end zone. It wasn't a drop situation. It was about, he was going to raise the ball up in the air and he lost control before he crossed the goal line in that game. And the Rams won it on an 88-yard touchdown pass. The Colts, I think, are good. We've said this about the Colts the last couple of years, that they are actually a good roster. They've had a good roster. And yeah, I mean, I like them to bounce back and win at home. I don't know about the number. I don't like this game either way. The Raiders got Ashton Genty going last week. Let's see if they can make it 2 weeks in a row. That's going to be the thing with them, man. Geno's thrown 6 picks in 3 in 2 of the last 3 games, 6 total. You do that against Indy, and it's going to be 38-10.
Yeah, especially
I like the Colts to win, though. I don't really like the game from a betting standpoint.
Yeah, I feel that there's a lot kind of at play there. I mean, because you don't really know what the Colts are going to look like secondary wise, especially with Xavier Howard retiring.
Genty, by the way, in watching the performance he had last week against the Bears, man, his lower body strength
unbelievable
is incredible. It is so hard to wrap him up and get him to the ground when he's got a little bit of forward motion. He had a big run, went for $138 last week. I said this, I think, to you yesterday. Tyler Warren is, as a rookie tight end, the Penn State kid, who, by the way, can throw the football too. If you watch Penn State last year, he is having a phenomenal start to the season. Right now, I think would potentially win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He leads all tight ends in receiving yards.
Yeah, they were lining him up in the backfield on goal line situations. He was getting direct snaps and just trying to power it in. I like Warren a lot. I think there's a reason he's on my fantasy team.
I think his yardage, I think I read this and I'm looking for it here. I think his yardage in the first 4 games is the most for a tight end in a rookie season, including Bowers last year in NFL history. Here it is. Yeah, he's got 19 catches for 263 yards in 4 games, the most yards for a tight end in his rookie year over the first 4 games of his career. He's been outstanding. What do you got next?
Next one, New York Giants take on the New Orleans Saints. They head down to the Superdome with 1 win under their belt, but Giants can say certainly a little bit more than the Saints. Giants, the first 0-3 team to defeat a 3-0 team since 2008, but the eye test tells me that the Saints were pretty frisky last week against the Bills. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee is Alan Eck. The line currently Saints -1.5. Over under is 41.5.
Is it down to 1.5?
That's
saw it at 2.5.
I got it. I saw it 1.5
today.
last night. I don't know. It could have changed in the past 24 hours. But it appears.
I mean, I'll just tell you, I like the Saints this week in the smell test. So you said something at the beginning. The Giants were the first 0-3 team to beat a 3-0 team
since 2008. Yeah.
Oh, since 2008. Okay. I was going to say, it seems like that probably has happened before.
No, it's definitely happened.
Spencer Rattler has played okay. They were down 21-16 with the ball in the 4th quarter at Buffalo last week. They ended up kicking a field goal, and it was 21-19, but they were in the game. The Saints, with the exception of that Seattle game, have been in every game that they've played. And, I think it was Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers after week 2, who unsolicited said that kid, meaning Spencer Rattler, he's going to be a good quarterback. And last week against Buffalo, 18 of 27, not a lot of yards, but he didn't make any big mistakes in the game. I like the Saints. They're 0-4. They've been close, and they weren't close against Seattle. I think they get it done at home. The Giants got it done with their defense last week. I think the Saints could get it done with their defense this week against Jackson Dart. I like the Saints.
Yeah, I do as well. All right, to the Meadowlands, where the Cowboys pay a visit to the other New York team, the Jets. The Cowboys enter off their Sunday night tie with the Green Bay Packers. Jets off a loss to the division rival Dolphins. Jets have one of the best rushing attacks in the league right now. They rank number 3 in yards per carry. And as we all know, the Cowboys secondary ranks dead last in yards per attempt and passing yards per game. Can the Cowboys defense hold strong, or will the Jets be able to pound the rock for a full 60, Kev?
I think the Jets can pound the rock for a full 60 and win this game outright.
Agree.
The Cowboys coming off that 40-40 tie, they're obviously very good. This Dallas team is going to be a team where every week you're like, we can run the football, we can throw the football, we can possess the football. If we are a lesser team, we got to win the game on offense by keeping their offense off the field. And I think the Jets are capable of doing it. They had a loss on Monday night, short week at home, but Dallas had, a long Sunday night game that went to the final play of overtime. I actually like the Jets to pull off an upset here with Justin Fields and their run game playing well as a short dog.
All right, we head to the link where the best offensive line in football and Bo Nix take on Jalen Carter and the Eagles' massive defensive front. But speaking of defensive fronts, the Broncos have been incredible. They currently lead the NFL with 15 sacks this season and rank number 2 in points allowed per game. But it's all going to come down to the red zone in this one. The Broncos rank number 1 in red zone defense, only allowing a touchdown 25% of the time, while the Eagles have yet to be stopped when they reach the red zone, scoring a touchdown 100% of the time. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Adrian Hill. Live line, Broncos +4. Over-under is 43.5. Who stands tall in this one, Kev?
This is going to be a fascinating game, and I'm thrilled that we get to sit down and watch it live. I know everybody will be red zoning it or whatever. This is one of those where I think you want to watch it and not lose the kind of feel and flavor of it, because this is a hell of a matchup. Denver is good on defense, man, like legit good. I've already talked about Nick Bonito this week. Jonathan Cooper is really good. You got Franklin Myers in that front. Of course, on the back end, you got Surtain. This is a good football team, a better football team than I thought it would be before the season started. I mean, they've got speed. They've got size on offense. Sutton's a legit star. Marvin Mims is one of the fastest players. I mean, there's a little bit at times with Mims, Tyreek Hill in him. They've got the rookie R.J. Harvey running well and catching the ball out of the backfield. The kid from UCF. We talked about all the running backs before the draft. Harvey went to Denver. And J.K. Dobbins, talked about him yesterday. 323 yards, 5.7 yards in his first 4 games, and he was just hanging out there the whole off season. The key to this game is Bo Nix. Don't make mistakes. Make the plays you have to make. Don't beat your team. And if he can do that against Philadelphia, even though they're short week coming east, I think the Broncos have a chance to win this game. I really do. This should be a hell of a football game. Philly figures it out, right? They figure out how to win. I don't think that this matchup for them against the Broncos defense is going to be the best. I see Philly potentially losing for the first time this year.
I can see that. My gut tells me it's going to end in a Philadelphia Eagles field goal to win the game. They'll win by 3.
Well, that would be a Denver cover.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
Titans head west to take on the Cardinals. Cam Ward said it himself this week after their loss to the Texans. If we keep it a buck, we ass. And the Cardinals are trying to climb above 500. Brian Callahan's seat gets hotter and hotter with each passing day. Kickoff at 4:05. The white hat for this one, Sean Smith. The Cardinals favored by 7.5 points. Over-under is 41.5. Kevin, can Brian Callahan cool his seat off in this hot Arizona sun? Or do the Kyler Murray and the Cardinals roll?
I don't have a feel for this one. I almost considered Tennessee as a play this week, but God, they are awful right now. And it's not, it's not like a short number sort of, grabbing my attention, but they're struggling right now, and there's internal stuff going on. This is a big spot for the Cardinals because, the Cardinals started off 2-0, but it was the Saints and the Panthers, and then they, lost on a walk-off field goal against the 49ers and the same against the Seahawks at home. They think they can be a factor in the NFC West. They think they can be a factor in the NFC wildcard race. If they're going to be, they got to win games like this and win them handily. And I think that the Cardinals are good enough to win this football game against the Titans at home. They've got a couple of interesting games coming up, including next week in Indy. So, a loss here would be devastating for their hopes of being a contender in the NFC and in their division this year. Cardinals get this one done.
I like it. All right, this next game I would normally be pretty locked in on if it weren't for our team playing in the exact same window, but it's going to be a really fun one. Got the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa enters this one off a loss to Philadelphia, but they seem to figure some things out in the second half. The Seahawks join off the mini bye where kicker Jason Myers hit the game winner as time expired. Kickoff at 4:05. Head referee Craig Rolstad. Live line right now is Bucks plus 3.5 or plus 3 wherever you can find it. Over under 44.5. Do the Bucks maintain their momentum, or can Seattle capitalize on some of this extra rest?
You said it. This could be a really good game and kind of an important, early season game in the NFC. Because, I just mentioned Seattle, Arizona wanting to be a part of the NFC West mix. So does Seattle. In Seattle at this point, at 3-1, they've already, got a win, over the Cardinals on that Thursday night game. And they still have the Rams twice and the 49ers once or twice. No, they lost to the 49ers in the opener. Seattle did. Boy, this would be a big game for Mike Evans to be a part of. It's too bad that he won't be. But Baker Mayfield is as good as anybody in the league with the game on the line. He's as good as anybody in the league off schedule and creating plays. They are well coached. I think the other team is too. Man, I'm not a Sam. I like Sam Darnold, but I think with the defensive pressure that Todd Bowles can scheme up, I kind of like the Bucks to go in and win in Seattle. Tough place to win. Big game. You're right. This would be, these were two expansion teams. The first kind of big expansion in the NFL back in the mid-'70s. Seattle came in and Tampa came in simultaneously. By the way, did you know that when these two teams joined the NFL in 1976, Tampa was in the AFC and Seattle was in the NFC. And then both were in the NFC for a long period of time. Then they switched. Seattle was in the AFC, and then when they went to the current division alignment back in 99, Seattle joined and flipped and went over to the NFC when Houston joined the league. Just a little NFL trivia for you. I like the Bucks Sunday.
All right, I'm going to keep that NFL trivia. I'm going to put it in my back pocket for later.
I don't think you will.
I'm going to. So the next one, what was supposed to be Joe Burrow versus Jared Goff has devolved into Jake Browning versus a very hungry Lions team that seems eager to prove that losing both coordinators is not such a big deal, no matter how hard the Bengals try to mask the absence of Joe Burrow. Zach Taylor, his record tells the truth. He is 4-30-1 without Joe Burrow at the helm starting. Kickoff at 4:25. Head referees Carl Cheffers. The line currently is Lions minus 10. Over-unders 49.5. Kevin, I think the Lions blow this minus 10 out of the water. What say you?
I say no. And I know that this will be a second consecutive game that I'm on the Bengals. But here is something just to consider. The week after playing the Cleveland Browns, teams have really not played well. Look at the Packers, in Dallas. They played well offensively, but they couldn't stop anybody. The Lions are coming off a win over the Browns, but God, did they get beat up in that game by Cleveland's defense. Baltimore beat Cleveland, but then the next week lost. I think this Cleveland Brown team takes a lot out of you, even when you win the game. So this is one of those letdown spots. The Lions, with the Ravens win and then the short week win over the Browns, wouldn't surprise me on the road if there's a letdown and a closer game than anticipated. But I'll tell you what, man, that Jake Browning was just horrendous on Monday Night Football. I don't know why they're not looking into a Jameis Winston or a Kirk Cousins. They've got too much talent on that team. And in that AFC North, anything could happen. Anything could happen. I mean, Pittsburgh right now 3-1, but with Baltimore and Cleveland, Cincy could have a shot if they could just figure out the quarterback spot. And their backup is like Brett Rippon, I think. Now, maybe they think Burrow's coming back a lot sooner than most people think, but Browning's not good enough. But somehow I'll take the 10.5, and Detroit wins something like 28-21, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Monday night we'll do on Monday. I want to talk real quickly about the opportunity that Maryland has tomorrow. And you'll hear something that Mike Loxley said with the Junkies yesterday as well. We'll do that next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
Are you surprised at the maturity of Malik Washington through the 4 games, or is this just something that you expect from him? You knew he had this sort of mind frame, mindset heading into games. Even is he 18 or 19? How old is he at this point?
Yeah, I mean he's still 18.
18 years old.
I've kind of known that it. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with this kid over the last 4 years of recruiting him and getting to know him and his mental makeup and how he's been built. And there's no doubt that the maturity has always been there. But I couldn't tell you that until we see him live in Bullets, which we've seen him in the first 4 games and how he's responded. And even when he hasn't played great within the game at times, nothing seems to rattle him. He seems to have kind of that gumption and moxie that you want to see out of that position.
Mike Loxley on Malik Washington's maturity. He'll get a test tomorrow. The Terps with a big home game tomorrow. Early October, 4-0, a chance to get to 5-0 against Washington. The Huskies coming into this game off of a loss to number 1 last week, Ohio State at home. The game was actually a competitive game. It was 7-3 at halftime. It was 14-6 entering the fourth quarter. Ohio State's outstanding defensively, but this is a much bigger test for Maryland, I think, than the game they played 2 weeks ago at Wisconsin. Look, you go into Madison, it's always hard to win in the Big Ten, especially for the Marylands and other teams like that in the conference. And that's a big win. I said it's a signature win for Loxley, but Wisconsin's down and they were injured at quarterback. Washington comes into this game with Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman. Their quarterback is a sophomore, and he's good. Their running back is an future NFL running back, Jonah Coleman, number 1. They are one of the best third down conversion teams in the country. This tomorrow for me is about Maryland's defense against Washington's offense. Maryland's defense has led them so far. They have 3 or 4 guys that are going to be NFL players in the future. They are fast. They are young. They're aggressive. They turn people over. And they've really been a factor in the 4 games, including in Madison, where they basically shut down Wisconsin's offense. Maryland's special teams have been great. They blocked kicks. This is the kind of game it could be. I like Malik Washington, love his size, love his, overall, he's the picture of an NFL quarterback physically. He's got a long way to go, though. He really does. If you've watched him carefully, the accuracy isn't always there. Sometimes the touch isn't there, but he's young. Hopefully we get a chance to watch him develop over the next 2 years, next year and beyond. This is a big spot for Maryland. If they win, they could be ranked next week, Max. They've gotten votes for 2 straight weeks. I know that Washington's not ranked, but they're 3-1 with only 1 loss to Ohio State. And they really didn't beat anybody. They beat a Colorado State team. They beat a Washington State, in the Apple Cup game that they're still playing despite not being in the same conference with one another. This is a big spot, though, and I think the key for Maryland is defensively, can they get off the field against a very good third down conversion team? And what we've seen from Maryland teams in this spot before is we've seen self-inflicted losses. Too many penalties, too many mistakes with the clock and the management of it, too many turnovers. Can they eliminate or minimize those in this spot tomorrow? If they do, I think they got a shot to win the game in maybe a lower scoring kind of a game than many think. But win that, and you go to 5-0, and next week Nebraska comes to town with Dylan Raiola and company, and that would be, I think, a packed house in College Park. And they are close to packing the house for tomorrow. If you want tickets, there are still a few available at umterps.com. Of course, we will carry the game as the home of Maryland football. Johnny and Steve Suter on the call tomorrow, 3:30 kickoff, 2:30 pregame. I like the Terps' chances. I think Washington coming off a game in which they played the number 1 team in the country. It was a physical game, and they're traveling, in a conference game coast to coast, about as far as you can travel almost in the conference. I like Maryland tomorrow in a close, lower scoring game. In college, that means something like, 20-17, 23-20, something like that. Would love to see the Terps get the win. Should be an exciting atmosphere as well in College Park. All right, Ben Standig next. Ben Standings with us, as he is every Friday and Monday at 12 noon. He's calling in from Los Angeles, where the team will practice today for the final time in preparation for the Chargers on Sunday. A 4:25 kickoff in SoFi. By the way, did you go to the game last night since you were out there or not?
No, I can only have so much SoFi Stadium in my life in one trip. But no, I did watch the end of it, but I did not go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're out in LA. You've got, time to enjoy it. Why go to a football game? I know a lot of people that's would be number one on their list. Go to a baseball game, go to a football game. That's further down my list, and I think it is for you as well. All right, let's get to it. They're injured, really injured. What do you think the possibilities are that they're going to play Sunday without Debo in addition to no Terry and no Noah Brown?
Look, I mean, obviously, didn't practice the last 2 days, so something is amiss, something is afoot. But I just sort of guessing. But I'm going to guess that he goes. Sounds like he was, out there yesterday working on the sign field. And look, I think in his case, perhaps one, we know about, he's had some injury history throughout his career. 2, last week they took him off kick returns and just played him at receiver, knowing that they were already out Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. And so 3, I imagine that at this point, if there's, anything going on, he obviously has shown a pretty good connection with the quarterbacks. Just let it, rest up, do whatever you got to do, and then get ready for Sunday. So that's my guess right now. But obviously, I don't know. I mean, it's already crazy enough that they're playing without Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, considering the depth issues that we've talked all year. I can't even contemplate a world where Debo is also out.
Cliff said yesterday that we didn't want to put him out there, Jaden that is, until he could be Jaden, and that's what he's going to be, and that's how he's going to play on Sunday. Can he be that with a knee brace? Have you talked to anybody? I'm just curious about what it would look like and whether or not it would be limiting if he has to wear a knee brace.
Yeah, I mean, I think there can be some sort of issue there. I mean, just from the pure standpoint of you're having this contraption on your body, and it'd be one thing maybe if he was just a pure pocket passer. Obviously, that's not the case. So, he's the one that it matters to the most. And the last couple of weeks when the topic has come up, he definitely sounded like me as like 8 years old when my mom said you got to eat your broccoli. God, really, I don't want to do this. But it is what it is. He's going to have to, if the doctors say you got to do it then to play, then they'll have to do it. So I imagine there will be some concern, or not concern, but some limitations. But we'll see. I mean, I guess the weird thing is like the last game we saw him was the Green Bay game, where before the injury he was just completely, hemmed in by the Packers the whole game, which is very odd to see. So that having that memory, and now discussing the possibility he might be a little bit limited if he has to wear his knee brace. It's almost like we're discussing a quarterback that I don't even know. But, it is what it is. If he's going to play, then the doctor said to do it, you got to do it.
Bates is back. That's good news. Do you think against a team that has shown a lot of, too high nickel, extra DBs on first and second down, inviting teams to try to run the football, do you think Cliff will take the invitation this week and do it?
I mean, you would think so. It's been, it feels like it's been as uneven as like the season has been overall. I feel like that's how it's been with the emphasis on the run game. Last week, I mean, the overall split between runs and passes wasn't really that dramatic, but it felt like the run game was like definitely, missing at times. So you would think that, especially with Jaden coming back, take some pressure off of him, and the fact that look, they're number 2 in the league in rush yards per game, despite ranking, middle of the pack in attempts. You would think you'd want to try to lean into that. And the Chargers play a lot of nickel and dime packages, and that means you're going to have smaller guys on the field. It has not mattered too much for them so far in terms of giving up yards. They're top 4 in the league in yards allowed and points allowed. So they've done a really good job no matter what they do. But you would think logically that they would. And look, even if let's assume Debo still plays, you're down, these playmakers. And where's your playmaking coming from? Last time I checked, Bill is averaging, over 5 yards a carry. Rodriguez.
Almost 6, 5.9 yards per carry. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And Chris Rodriguez has been up there,
Yeah.
So it just seems like purely in terms of where are we going to be able to get some bigger plays, that seems as likely, if not more logical than the other spots. So I would think you'd try to find ways to lean in and into the run game, and the Chargers are kind of daring you to do it.
Yeah. Let's see if they do that on Sunday. I mean, there's always the possibility that really with the receivers you're putting out here, no, we're going to load the box and see if you can beat us with your arm with those receivers. We're talking, of course, to Ben Standig at Ben Standig on X, on Twitter. Last Man Standing is the podcast and also the Substack column in which I am a subscriber, and I would urge you to do the same. Ben writes pretty much every day covering this football team. The defense obviously got the bulk of the conversation and the criticism following the loss in Atlanta. And, I listened to Joe Witt's press conference the other day. I'm just curious as to what your reaction was to his answers, to the way he answered the questions. Did you think that, was there anything that left an impression with you?
Well, I mean, look, in terms of what went wrong against Atlanta, he talked about the same things that we've all talked about, the missed tackling. He gave a little more explanation as to, guys were maybe going for a little too much. He said on the Bijan Robinson 14-yard touchdown run that there was somebody that kind of went for the strip rather than going to take the guy down. And when it didn't happen, that just led to, chaos. And Bijan got in there, and it looked like to me on the game tape that it was like Jeremy Reeves who got there first and went for the strip, and then he talked about miscommunication pre and post snap, and where that led to some issues. He pointed specifically to the third down, the first third down of the game for Atlanta. Kyle Pitts, again, kind of looked like Jeremy Reeves, jumped up to make the play where to cover Drake London coming in motion, except you had Lattimore over there, and then you had Frankie Louvu sort of dropping back to take a little that part of the field, and then all of a sudden Pitts goes deep. So we talked about those elements. I think he was pretty specific about what plays and what happened. And, again, if you just have access to the all 22, like the public does these days, you can kind of see what was going on. So I think it's interesting that he was willing to be that sort of forthright in terms of what happened. But on the other hand, we want candor and honesty from the people that we talk to. So I don't have an issue with him saying anything. And the reality is we all saw it. I mean, they were pretty poor. And despite all the injuries primarily affecting the offense, it's the defense that is back to being the real question here, because, in 2 of the games, they've looked more like the group from last year that we knew just wasn't up to snuff. And, what is it? And the story I wrote today on my Substack is basically how the game is the Commanders and Chargers, but the reality is it feels like it's perception versus reality, because if you lose this game and the defense doesn't live up, doesn't look improved, then, where are we with this group? Same thing with the offense. I mean, Jaden has been out, obviously, the last couple of games with injury, but the Green Bay game, they didn't look good before the injury. They haven't looked as sharp as they did last year when Jaden's been out there. So, if you go out and lose this game, where are they at? What is this team? And I think the defense in particular, again, with the offense, people injured, Jaden just coming back, we can maybe give a little bit of a pass. But the defense has got to step up, and they can't, they can't look like they did against Green Bay and Atlanta, and the schedule's only getting harder. I mean, there's no poor quarterbacks that they're going to be dealing with, for most of the rest of the way. So they're really going to have to figure out how to do this. And that's what I'm saying. I think the defense whatever you think of what Joe Witt was saying, I do think there was some urgency there, and there needs to be.
Yeah, you're right. The answers were rather detailed. That's for sure. I mean, the answers were multiple minutes, each of them. And the one thing that I just noted is, basically, you're right. We got a lot of candor from him about how the players messed everything up on Sunday and didn't do essentially what they were coached to do. So that can last for a little bit, but that can't last forever because eventually, if they're not doing what you're telling them to do, they got to find somebody else that can communicate it better. I'm not suggesting that's where it's headed. I just thought it was interesting. I went back after the show yesterday and listened to the whole thing, and I find him very candid and going through everything in detail to really help everybody understand. But at the end of the day, it was, in his opinion, the players who screwed up. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I mean, the two plays he cited, I think you go back and look, I think he's right.
Well, there's a lot of capes talk. Like, we got to stop putting on the capes.
Yeah.
And trying to be heroes.
Yeah, and he said, like, Frankie Louvet was the only player who played well.
That played well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like,
I'm not saying he's wrong.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I want. Typically, that's not the best way to handle it publicly, because if you get that week in and week out where it's always the players after a bad performance, that grows old. We'll see. It's 1 week. We can go. We can move on from that. All right. Let's move on, because I'm wondering if you think, based on what you've watched and based on people you've talked to, if there is, a confidence in a solution. Like even Quinn and even Witt Jr., they referred to the two games in which they played well, almost ignoring the fact that neither one of those two teams was very good, the Giants or the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was after the Raiders game. I was talking to Javon Kinlaw, and I was like, if I ask you, you guys have had a couple of uneven games here. If I ask you which is the reality, you're going to tell me it's the Raiders game versus, say, the Green Bay game. I get that, but like, what, what's the real confidence level if that's the case? And he was like, hey, we did it. We were pretty dominant in doing it. We know we have the talent, and I think that's just how professional athletes are to a degree. They obviously just, you have to have blinders on, tunnel vision, be confident, focus on, what's positive, but also what do you need to do to be good. And if you don't, if you've seen the talent, you've seen the success, the opponent to a degree doesn't quite matter. That's if you're wearing all the blinders. Sometimes though, you do get people who understand, what's going on. And I think there was some recognition of the players and the staff that, what happened against Atlanta felt a little too similar to what happened against Green Bay. And even if you think that the two other games were really good, that's hard to, it's hard to ignore. And, look, I mean, they've had some injuries, no doubt, but not compared to what the offense has been missing. They've had the margin of error injuries that unfortunately teams suffered, not missing.
Will Harris being number one. Yeah.
Yeah. But not missing your starting quarterback, your number one receiver, the other receiver, and all these things. So, yeah, I mean, that's, they're going to have to find a way. But of course, and I think it's also, as we've discussed, is Marshawn Lattimore getting picked on, or are they not using him in ways that make the most sense if you're going to have a Marshawn Lattimore? Is Bobby Wagner, making great plays 90-something% of the time, but when the other team is able to, put him in a bad spot, you're like, oh boy, this isn't going to go well, and there's no way to really fix that, right? I mean, so it feels like that to me is like where they're at a little bit at the crossroads. There's reason to be hopeful and optimistic, but man, the way the mistakes are kind of happening, like you said before, if the message isn't getting through, how do you fix it? And that's what I think they're again, that's to me why I wrote, like, I think this is a perception versus reality game. They go out there and win. Whatever happens, they win. On Monday, you and I aren't discussing the negatives. We're saying, okay, 3-2.
But we could be. We could be if it's 38-37 and the defense couldn't get off the field. But we'll take that. We'll take it and run with it. I've got one more on the defense, and that is this. What are the chances, you give me the percent chance, that on Sunday before the game we get surprised like we did against the Raiders with somebody being inactive or somebody being benched? We had the Brandon Coleman and the Allegretti, day before the Raiders game. What's the chances we get that with personnel on defense Sunday?
I don't know. It feels pretty small. Like, I don't, again, we're saying there's more injuries happening on the other side of the ball, but they've now lost 2 defensive ends, so they're pretty thin. They're not thin, but they're losing the margin of error from a depth perspective there. So I don't think there's much they can do. I think the defensive tackles, by and large, have been fine. They just need Payne, in particular, to be more, much more present in the game. Much more consistent. Linebackers, again, we can discuss, should they make some sort of a change in passing down situations? To what? Like, there's no, Jordan McGee has barely played this year, and I don't think that's because they feel compelled to have to keep Bobby Wagner on the field. I think it's because he's not shown, there's not enough trust in him to play. And then you look at the corner situation, again, like, I don't know, where would you go? You can fetch about Marshawn Lattimore all you want, but and look, I don't think it's all on him as much as maybe some people do, but where else would you go anyway? And I guess the one thing, if you say at safety, is if Percy Butler could get back somehow, could you maybe play him more instead of Jeremy Reeves at safety? Maybe, but Jeremy Reeves is the backup already, so that to me wouldn't be notable. So I don't really know what I would even think that the move would be defensively. Again, maybe somebody plays more or less than they had, but I can't see what the inactive would be.
All right. Well, inactive, no. Could I see a scenario in which on 2nd and 12 and 3rd and 12 they actually take Wagner off the field? Maybe it's not Jordan McGee. Maybe it's another DB. Could I envision Lattimore being benched, Sanders still moving outside, Noah I being the nickel corner? These are the kinds of things that I think, if I saw that Sunday, I wouldn't be shocked, because this coaching group, they've already proven, at least on the offensive side of the ball, if they don't like something, they'll make a change. And there was a lot not to like last week, but maybe, they believe that they can fix things this week. We'll see. Talking to Ben Standing, of course. All right, let me get your, how do they win Sunday preview.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, for all the lamenting we're doing about them, the Chargers are going to be without, their 2 starting offensive tackles from the beginning of the year. Presume Joe Alt, I don't think he's been officially ruled out, but it sounds like he's not going to play with a high ankle sprain. And Justin Herbert's been getting pressured almost on half of his dropbacks the last couple of weeks. So, even if the Chargers are not, from an overall team perspective, are not going to be viewed as the Giants or the Raiders, from an offensive line perspective, they may very well be in that category. And this is where, if the defense is going to show what it can do, this is a great opportunity to get after this guy. And obviously Justin Herbert is, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And, he's been making plays on the perimeter with Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson at receiver. These are 2 power forward type receivers, the type of guys that, just to go back to Lattimore, has had issues with in his time with Washington. So, if you let Herbert find those guys down the field based on what we've seen so far, that's going to be a long day. They haven't really gotten Ladd McConkey involved yet this year out of the slot. He was just a massive weapon for them. And then, they've got a rookie running back in Marion Hampton. He's had some good moments, but, again, you gotta keep him penned in. I think the Chargers defense has been really, really good this year. The potential advantage, as we discussed, is the fact that they play a lot of nickel and dime. So maybe this is where you lean into the run. But, I don't think this is going to be a game where you can just say, hey, the offense is going to go out there and roll, again, especially since we just haven't seen Jaden for the last couple of weeks. So, I think they've got to get after Herbert. If Herbert has time the way Penix did last week, we would have thought, okay, get Penix off his spot, don't give him no rhythm. That's a problem. I mean, Herbert's really, really good no matter what's going to happen, but that's, I think, the way they're going to have to win this game is pressure Herbert so that Chargers offense isn't able to dictate things, because I think their defense is going to be able to, keep Washington somewhat in check.
All right. So your prediction is?
Oh man, I mean, I think I think I'd have to go with the home team here, something in the neighborhood of 20-17. Obviously turnovers and those types of deals are always the X factor, and look, I guess you could say this is Washington's week based on how they've gone this year. Every other week that they have played, they've played good. Maybe that happens this week, but the Chargers are coming off a loss. I just to the Giants, no less. I just figure they find a way. But if that offensive tackle situation is, as bleak as it could be, maybe that's where again Washington sneaks in. But overall, I'm gonna go with the Chargers, and I think the note for me is again perception versus reality. If they lose, Washington is under 500 for the first time since week 1 last year. We have not had to talk about this team. Again, it's only week 5 and all that, but we haven't had to talk about them in that way, right? So
yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. They started out 4-1 before they lost to Baltimore, got to 7-2, and 2-3 would be, based on where we were a month ago, would be very disappointing. But there would be reasons for it, and the reason number one would start. It happens when you have a lot of key injuries in a season. Plenty of time to turn it around, though. All right, you got the Chargers in a close one.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people might think the line's smelly, so I hear that.
Yeah, very much so. Very much
but, so there's that. I acknowledge it, but just based on the facts on the ground, that I'd go the Chargers by a little bit, yeah.
All right. Enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday.
Yeah, man. See ya.
Ben Standig, everybody, at Ben Standig on X on Twitter. When we come back, smell test for the week. 5 consecutive winning weeks to start off 2025-2026. The picks next. From Xander. Xander writes, can't win with you, Sheehan. He talks too much. You have something to say. If he didn't talk enough, you'd have something to say. ST blank you. Thank you for that, Xander. He's referring to my conversation with Ben about Joe Witt Jr.'s press conference yesterday. Actually, Xander, you're 100% wrong. As a fan of the teams that I'm a fan of, I much prefer when they say the least amount possible in these things. That's been pretty consistent for a long period of time. So that's not true. But yes, if you heard in my tone in what I said to Ben, trying to elicit an answer from Ben if he had an impression, I went back after the show yesterday and I watched Cliff and I watched Joe in their weekly coordinator press conferences. And Joe Witt Jr.'s answers were War and Peace length. I mean, they were minutes, 4, 5, 6 minutes, some of them. And I think that from my standpoint, he did a great job of explaining everything that happened on Sunday against Atlanta. But I think typically my experience, for whatever it's worth, probably your experience, maybe it's different. When somebody's in that position, kind of under the gun, after a really poor performance, which, by the way, felt at least like some of it was about coaching with all of the miscommunication for the second time this year. I think when you go to great lengths to over-answer and to provide so much detail, and every detail is about the players not executing what was coached, that comes off a little bit defensive to me. It does. And it did yesterday in watching it. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them. And hopefully it's a better performance. You can't get away with consistently it's everybody else if it continues to happen week in and week out. And by the way, like I said to Ben, he may be right. I'm not disputing the fact that what he's explaining isn't exactly what happened, that this was player breakdown everywhere, players putting capes on, trying to be Superman in too many situations. I'm not suggesting that he's wrong. What I am suggesting is, even if he's right, answering that week in and week out, that it's more about them, it's dangerous. Let's get to my smell test. That's not been dangerous. Ten, 6-1 last week, 5 consecutive winning weeks to open up the NFL College 2025-2026 season, hitting at 61% through the first 5 weeks of the year. I don't love the card. I thought I was going to like it more. I thought I was going to like Louisville and have Louisville. I thought I was going to have Alabama tomorrow. I don't have any of those teams. There's just too much mixed action, public-wise and sharp-wise. There's only 2 college games that really fit, the smell test criteria, which is looking for the games where everybody's convinced the line is wrong and that the bookmakers have screwed it up and they're all on one side and I just go the other way. That combined with, as I've said many times over the years, and I do have sources. I have information offshore from various people that I am close to that provide me with, these are the sides we are going to need. And these are the sides we are going to need. And add to that, some of our sharpest bettors are on those sides too. So there are only 2 games for me that really fit that this week. Cincinnati, I gave them out last week, catching points against Kansas, and they won the game outright. They're playing 14th ranked undefeated Iowa State at home, and Cincinnati's favored. Like, this is one of those games where a lot of, average public, John Q. public bettors will look at it and say, wait a minute, how is number 14 in the country undefeated and underdog against Cincinnati, a team that lost to Nebraska early in the year, and they won last week, but their only wins other than last week against Kansas are against Northwest State and Bowling Green. Give me Cincinnati, and I'll lay the point because that one is the definition of smell test criteria. The team that's undefeated and ranked 14th is an underdog against the team that has a loss and isn't ranked. Let's go to Saturday night. One of the biggest games of the day, Florida State at home against Miami, coming off a bye. Florida State, I gave out Virginia last week and said I think Virginia can win this game outright, and they did, 46-38 in overtime. Florida State gets the Canes. This is, an October Miami-Florida State game that means a lot. And we know how that used to go in the 90s. Wide right, wide left. But I like Florida State catching a perceived short number. Miami is favored by 4 in this game on the road. They're coming off that game against Florida in which it was ugly because Florida's really good defensively, very good defensively. I really like Miami. They're one of my favorite teams to watch this year. I think they've got a chance to win the national championship. They are so good in the trenches. Unbelievable offensive line. They can run it. They can throw it. Carson Beck has been outstanding, but that's why I like Florida State in the smell test. They're catching off of a loss, a very short number, and the public is pounding the Canes, laying the 4. I'll take the Noles plus the 4. So just 2 college games. Let's go to Sunday, where there were a bunch of games. I did almost give out San Francisco last night. I would have given them out had the number stayed at 6.5, 7, but it jumped with all of the injury news and with Brock Purdy being ruled out, and I stayed off of it. Where's my first game? Jets catching 2.5. I'll buy the half point at home against the Cowboys. The Cowboys offense is a favorite of the NFL fan right now. And the Cowboys are typically a majorly public bet team anyway. There are some big, sizable public versus non-public sides. This is one of them. Cowboys laying 2.5. The Jets coming off a Monday night game. So a short week, but I'm going to take the Jets at home. I think they can run the football. I think they can possess the football, and I'll buy the half point and take the Jets at home plus 3. You got the Giants. Now you're saying that that's 1.5. I'm still seeing 2s and 2.5s. I'm looking at this.
I'm pulling up my source that I use. I'm going to look at it right now just so I can give, if I need to put a hand up.
I mean, I'd rather give out the Saints at minus 1.5.
I'm seeing minus 1.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I see it at minus 2 in other books. But FanDuel and DraftKings,
I'm seeing 1.5
in
one spot. I'm seeing a lot of 2s and 2.5s. I'm not gonna take a 1.5 when it's only out there in one spot. I'll take the Saints and lay the 2. We'll split the difference on that because there are some 2s out there. But the Giants, off of their dominating defensive performance against the Chargers on Sunday, along with the perception that, hey, they're much better with Jackson Dart. And Dart was fine as a runner more so than a passer. The Saints were close last week in Buffalo. The public likes the Giants. I like the Saints in the Superdome to get their first win of the year. Laying the 2. Again, there's the perception looking at this game that the wrong team is favored. Let's go to the 4 o'clock window and our game. I've said this going back to Sunday. I knew when I saw 2.5, 3, that the public would load up on the Chargers with Washington being injured and the Chargers coming off a loss. And it's true. Right now, college or pro, the Chargers are one of the 3 or 4 most bet teams this weekend. On that alone, you know who I'm going to be on. I'm on our team plus the 3. Over the years, I'm in the low 60% percentile on games involving Washington, whether it's going against them or with them. I had last week Atlanta laying the 2, and I've got our team this week plus the 3. Let's go to Sunday Night Football. This is a painful one for me because I talked about earlier with Max. Jake Browning on Monday night was horrendous. I mean, really bad. And the Bengals actually looked like a team that was starting to bail a little bit. Jamar Chase, his performance Monday night in Denver was embarrassing. He looked like the diva wide receiver who had given up and was like, if you can't get me the football, if we can't protect, I'm not, I'm done. But Detroit is the second most bet public team of this upcoming weekend after the Chargers. And so on that alone, I'll take the Bengals plus the 10.5. They're at home. I mentioned these games after teams play Cleveland. They're a little bit beat up. They're a little bit slow to the punch. Detroit played Cleveland last week. I've got 2 teams off of Monday Night Football. I don't feel good about that. But I'll take Cincinnati plus the 10.5. Go to Monday night. The Chiefs, after their performance against the Ravens, are a public darling once again. Jacksonville beat the 49ers. They needed a bunch of turnovers to get that done. They're getting 3.5. I'll take the 3.5 and the Jags at home on Monday night. There were a couple of other games. Like I kind of like the Broncos. I kind of like the Panthers on Sunday. And in college, man, I really wanted to pull the trigger on Bama. That should be a really interesting game, Bama and Vandy, but there's sharp action on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, if they were to pull off the upset, Max, Sunday in Tuscaloosa, I think everybody would then say they are a legitimate and maybe even a likely playoff team. I've talked a lot about Maryland football over the years. It's like, they're never going to compete for the highest echelons of the sport, but they could have a really good season, a 9-10 win season here or there. But with the 12-team playoff, Indiana last year, and we'll get another surprise Power 4 team in the playoff again this year. Anything's possible. Put it this way, if Maryland wins tomorrow 5-0 with their schedule, they could be a team that people start to talk about in the Big Ten. I don't love the Terps tomorrow, by the way, plus the number. I like them a little bit, but don't love them. All right, recapping. Cincinnati -1 tomorrow. Florida State +4 tomorrow night. Sunday, the Jets +3. The Saints -2. Washington +3. And the Bengals +10.5. Jacksonville +3.5 on Monday Night Football. All right, when we come back, prediction time. Final score of Sunday's game with a footnote, a prediction on the game in addition to the score. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Max and I will have our picks, our footnotes. We want yours as well when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're also free and live on the Odyssey app. Back in a moment.
All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Here's what's happening. A little bit of an injury update for the Washington Commanders. They traveled to L.A. yesterday, but a few players did not make the trip. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, and Sam Cosmi all did not travel with the team and have been ruled out for Sunday. Players still in question are Deebo Samuel, who did not practice with a heel injury. Mikey Senior still did not practice with a knee injury. Deron Payne, Ali Cahoe, and Percy Butler all limited in practice this week. Some full participants were Dorrance Armstrong and Nick Bellore yesterday. They should be ready to go for Sunday, barring any setbacks. Yesterday, MLB Elimination Day across the MLB postseason. The Tigers, they double up the Guardians 6-3. They'll move on to face the Mariners. The Cubs win over the Padres by score of 3-1. They'll draw the matchup versus the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Yankees, they beat the Red Sox 4-0. They'll take on the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALDS. Dodgers, they moved on the other day over the Reds. They'll go up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Some hockey, the Caps, they fall for the first time in the preseason to the Boston Bruins by a score of 3-1. Ryan Leonard with the lone bright spot for the Caps. Charlie Lindgren in net last night, saving 25 of 27 shots. But man, he'd like to have that second goal back, I'm sure. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. That is what's trending.
There we go. There we go. Big game Sunday. Seriously. Ben just reminding me that if they were to lose, it'd be the first time they've had a losing record since, the Rivera Sam Howell experiment at the end of 2023. Started off fast last year, kept going fast, and ended pretty quickly until it didn't against Philadelphia. But that was in the NFC Championship game. Yeah, excited about Sunday and the opportunity. I really have felt all week long like this is one they're going to get. I mean, I've said this a million times. For me, I'm always, much more focused on, as a bettor of the sport, the way I think in terms of handicapping games. And the world is on the Chargers, which is why I liked Washington right from the jump. But from an analysis standpoint, they're getting Superman back. You want to talk about Joe Witt Jr. putting capes on? He put a cape on a ton of games last year. And Cliff Kingsbury saying yesterday that, we didn't want to put him out there until he can be Jaden, and that's what he's going to be, and that's how he's going to play. I'm trusting Cliff Kingsbury that we're going to get Jaden Daniels full 100% ready to roll Sunday against the Chargers. I think there are a lot of ways Washington can be successful offensively, even without the receivers that they won't have in the game. Terry, Noah. I think it's crucial that they have Debo. Hopefully Debo is a go. If he isn't, it'll be interesting to see if the Chargers do crowd the line of scrimmage more than they have in their first 4 games and say, go ahead and beat us with Chris Moore, with Luka McCaffrey, with the rookie Jalen Lane. Let's see it because we're pretty good defensively. And if we shut down your ability to run the football, we don't think you can do it. Now, if Debo's there, not that he's a deep threat, but there are just so many things they can do. I think they can run the football Sunday. I think they can possess it. Defensively, I'm not confident about anything. Why would I be? But more confident this week against an offensive line that's banged up. This has been their 2 formulas for defensive success so far this year against the Giants and the Raiders. An offensive line that wasn't good and was injured week 1 and week 3. Now, what's behind that offensive line is much different than what the Giants had or what the Raiders had in Justin Herbert and Omari and Hampton and all 3 of their receivers. By the way, just better coaching, really, on offense with Greg Roman and with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. But I like Washington. I think it's a game they win the time of possession. I think they score on 5 of 9 drives, 10 drives. I think they get enough stops. And I think Jaden, late in the game, in a tie game, drives him down the field and gets Matt Gay in range for not a long field goal, a 37-yarder at the gun to win it 27-24. Did I come up with that just randomly? No. They haven't won in San Diego against the Chargers. They haven't won on the road against the Chargers since 86, but they beat them in 83 on Monday Night Football when the Chargers turned the ball over 8 times, but they won the game 27-24 on a Mark Mosley 37-yard field goal at the gun. Can you imagine a team turning the ball over 8 times in today's game? Like, it's rare when you see a team turn the ball over 3 or 4 times. Man, the protection of the football was not a priority in the 70s and in the 80s. Some odd known reason. Anyway, 27-24, Jaden has a big return and leads him down the field for a walk-off field goal. Max, what do you got?
All right, so I think in this game, pass rush is going to be, paramount just because the Chargers offensive line is paper thin. Got to get Herbert off kilter. Got to make him, muddy up that field. I think Joe Witt's got to disguise some coverages and just kind of confuse Justin Herbert at the line, make him think for that little fraction of a second longer, because that, I think, is going to be key on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side, I think the rushing attack is going to be absolutely paramount. I mean, the Chargers, they allow 4.5 yards a carry. I think this is going to be a big day for Bill. I think he's going to break a big one. My bold prediction for this game is Bill Merritt, 100-plus yards and a touchdown. I think he's going to break off a big one, like an 80-yard run or something crazy. I got Washington winning this one 31-28.
There we go. It was Bill, then it was Bill Merritt. I'm just starting to say Krosky Merritt. I just think that is less cumbersome. We're just going to go with Krosky Merritt for me. Anyway. If you want to weigh in, we've got a line or 2 open. Prediction with a footnote. Chris in Maryland, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Kev?
Good, Chris.
I always like to say I'm a Falcons fan, so I don't have, no biased opinions or anything. So I had Commanders winning 27-24 with a late field goal.
That's my score.
I know when I was listening to it, I was like, he must have had my cheat sheet. And then some of your smell test picks was the same picks I had. I had the Saints outright winning, but also I had Jets winning. But anyway, but I think on a side note, I know a lot of people talking about how the Chargers coming off a defeat, but guess what? I think the Commanders going to be fueled by Jane in return, and I think order to you got to get Herbert off the pocket. Giants only sacked him twice last week, but they hit him 13 times. So I really think the defensive line. And my game ball will go to Frankie Louis this game. I think he's going to have about 2 sacks this week in a strip sack. So 27-24 Commanders.
Luvu played well last week. Luvu's played well this year, even though it doesn't kind of show up statistically. But I think once again, like last year, if it's not Luvu, it would be Dorrance Armstrong. But I think Luvu is still their best kind of pound for pound defensive player on the team. By the way, Max, I just saw this. Did you see Braylon Allen's done?
Yes,
for 8 to 12 weeks with the Jets.
Man, that's tough, man. For the rushing attack that they had, that 1-2 punch with Breece Hall.
Yeah,
that's going to be a big blow for them.
Yeah, I'm not changing my Jets pick. I'm not going to do that, but interesting. Well, I mean, they still have some weapons back there, including Breece Hall. All right, that's it. Back on Monday, we'll be recapping, obviously, what happens on Sunday. I do want you to know that all of our NFL conversation on the show is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Enjoy the football, enjoy the baseball. I'm looking forward to watching Ohtani pitch tomorrow against the Phils. Back on Monday. Chris is next.